Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over NVIDIA. Let's go over what has happened to the stock as the market, or rather as the company just reported their earnings. Pretty good earnings, I'll be honest. The earnings are, I mean, I see no complaints, personally speaking. So let's see how the market overall ends up digesting it. So far, it seems like option sellers are going to be winning with a very muted reaction. Again, don't forget, the market was pricing in almost a 10% move, right? About like an 8.5%, 9% move, something like that. Pretty much $10 up or down. So far, it's pretty much flat, which is great for me. If it stays like that, I'll be very happy with my cash secured put. But yeah, so beautiful earnings. Right, earnings are pretty nice. Absolutely no complaints there whatsoever. I mean, I don't think anyone's surprised the earnings are good. I don't think the concern to me ever was how good the earnings will be. I think we all expected the earnings to beat. Just a matter of how does the stock react. That's the question. But let's jump into it. I'll give you my thoughts moving forward. And yeah, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc., well, I am going to be, I do rather constantly share my thoughts, updates, etc., on the stock. Mainly on Tesla stock, I should say, in the first tier for just $3 a month. Sometimes I'll share other stocks as well, like, maybe Google or Amazon or sometimes AMD even. Or for $5 a month, you get access to everything in the first tier, plus NVIDIA daily updates again in my YouTube membership as the market is trading. So definitely check it out. Link is below. But jumping into it, NVIDIA closing the day with a nice respectable 3.67% on the day, closing at pretty much $131 per share. So like I just said, earnings came out. Earnings are pretty good. I see no reason to be upset about the earnings, but the stock is pretty much doing a whole lot of nothing, which again, good for someone like me that sold my, the cash secured puts, which is good. But what does this actually mean moving forward? Well, again, take everything I say today still with a grain of salt. Why? Because yes, we had the earnings. Yes, the stock is reacting, but these reactions, they sometimes take time, and not just necessarily the after hours time. Sometimes they'll take even a couple of days to fully react and absorb the information and really let the stock digest it properly, right? These things do take time, unfortunately. But the big picture is still the resistance remains to be about this kind of, 139, 140, something like that general range, right? That is the main level of resistance. If NVIDIA can ever start closing back above essentially the very low 140s once again, I think it's looking pretty potent for a move overall higher, at the very least to retest all-time highs, if not to make a move higher to fresh all-time highs. But we're not there yet. Right? We need actual confirmation. On the flip side, the support, that's the resistance. The support levels or the target levels, well, there's a few. So first and foremost, we can take this Fibonacci, right? You can see we already bounced off the 618 Fibonacci. The next level below that, if we do not, again, similar to Tesla, right? Which Tesla already made it to the bottom end of this channel. Remember how I mentioned Tesla and NVIDIA, they're both in these descending channels, right? Same idea with NVIDIA. It is still technically in this descending channel. So until it breaks above the very low 140s once again, but this time, and holds above the trend line, because it is a descending trend line, it's a descending channel. So the criteria, or I guess the threshold for it to break above to essentially confirm a breakout, if you will, naturally it gets lower daily, slightly, but lower nonetheless. So until we get that, again, technically speaking, the move and the pressure is still to the downside, right? To the downside. It is what it is. So to the next level to the downside would be closer to about 119 to 118, which is that green kind of smart money zone, if you will, Fibonacci resistance or support level, which will be that next range, right? So about 118, let's just say, give or take $1 or two, which is kind of where we bottomed over here, which kind of lines up pretty nicely. Or again, the worst case scenario, if things kind of, really hit the fan and, things don't really go that well or whatever, is essentially what Tesla just finished or is very close to finishing today, right? A move to the opposite end of the downward channel as we continue zigzagging, right? As we continue kind of this zigzagging nature, which again would put NVIDIA sometime in March closer to almost $100 per share, right? Maybe 105, something like that, depending on how quick it happens, of course. But that is something that is a possibility. So let's watch for that, right? Let's see how it overall reacts. Let's see how it market ultimately digests. I mean, so far it's doing a whole lot of nothing, which I'm very happy about personally, because my sold put is doing pretty good, right? It sounds like it'll be pretty much free money in the morning. So we'll see how that opens up. But I am excited now that earnings is out of the way. I'm excited for NVIDIA to digest this information. I haven't been trading a lot of NVIDIA lately, other than that one sold put I did, because again, it's earnings. I don't want to risk it, right? There's no reason to risk it. So yeah, so anyways, that's kind of the main picture. Again, I'm not gonna go into too much of the small detail here. I'm not gonna go, zoom in on the time frames here too much, mainly because again, we still need to let the stock digest it, right? It's still eating its meal, it's still eating dinner. Let the digestion happen. It takes a bit of time. Don't jump to conclusions here. Regardless of what happens, even if let's say it tanks 3% right now after hours, or rockets 3% after hours, let it, give it some time. Give it some time, let it digest this news, let it figure out what the hell it wants to do next, and then we'll figure it out, right? But the major levels to look for, right? To the downside, essentially another move back down to the 618 Fibonacci 124, which we already bounced from. I don't think we'll bounce from there again if we move down. I think we most likely, if we do move down, and especially break below 124, we most likely will go down back to that one, again, 18, 19-ish level, right? That Fibonacci retracement, right? Somewhere around here. Worst case is down here, closer to 105-ish, and of course the major level to break above to the north side is closer to pretty much $140 per share, give or take, of course, a couple dollars. Those are the only levels that matter. From here, we'll obviously pick one of those, right? I don't know which one, but watch for 124 break. Most likely we bleed lower to these levels. 140, most likely make our way to most likely fresh all-time highs, honestly. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. Let's see what happens. Let's see how the stock reacts. Let's see how the call goes. Let's see how all these things go. These things take time. In terms of options flow, let's take a quick look at NVIDIA for options flow. Probably a lot of calls. Usually the NVIDIA bulls are extremely unhinged and they usually go very aggressive with calls. Yeah, a lot of calls coming in as usual. I don't know where they get this money from. Honestly, at this point, they should just give me the money straight up. They're just burning it away, right? Like someone bought $1 million in calls above the ask for NVIDIA 15 minutes before the market closed for this Friday, 125 strike. Like, I don't get it. Like they're just gonna get IV crushed. Like the stock is down 0.2%. Like if in theory, if the stock actually does nothing like this, and let's say it actually stays like this the whole time, and it's a very muted reaction, like you lost. Why? Implied volatility crush or volatility IV crush, essentially. It's an IV crush. Because you have to understand what prices one of the factors, I should say, that prices the premium on options, whether it's puts or calls. Part of it is the implied volatility, right? The higher the implied volatility essentially implies that the fact that the market is pricing in for a larger move to the upside or to the downside, hence why the premium is higher, so why it's more expensive, but it's also worth more when you're selling options, right? So if the IV is high, which in this case it was pretty high, I think it was probably like closer to 100%, if not 120%, which is pretty high. NVIDIA is usually around 50. You have to understand, once these kind of catalysts are over and once earnings is done, this IV, the implied volatility, will revert to its mean, which is essentially, again, around its usual 40, 50, sometimes 60%, right? It reverts back to that mean, right? And what happens if the stock does nothing? Despite it maybe even going slightly in your direction, if it doesn't go in your direction enough, you lost. Because the volatility has crumpled down. Now the market expects less of a move overall in either direction. In this case, there'll be calls, of course, to the upside. The move has been declined. And because the market expects less of a move to the upside, that also means that the value of the option essentially gets IV crushed. It loses it, even if the stock, let's say, opens up at, literally the same price it closed at today, tomorrow, as an example. You lost. You got IV crushed. It is what it is. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying this as like, I don't know. I see this every single earnings. I don't know why I see this every earnings. It goes wrong almost every earnings because NVIDIA usually moves less than the implied move. But I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. 87, almost 90 million confirmed bullish flow on NVIDIA that is most likely going to be destroyed thanks to decay and IV crush tomorrow. So congratulations on that. This is why I never buy options into earnings. Maybe, if anything, I sell options into earnings if I'm holding the stock, or if I actually wouldn't mind an entry, like I wouldn't mind an entry on NVIDIA. I think I still have my 121 put that I actually bought back my 111. I had a 111 that I bought back because near the high of the day, because no reason to hold it. It was almost fully decayed already. I think I have my 121, I believe it was, is the one that I sold, which I'm still holding. But at this rate, it's going to open up like 70% down. So hey, it is what it is. I'm okay with that. But nonetheless, that's kind of the major picture for NVIDIA, right? Let's let's give it at least tomorrow. Let it digest this information. Let's figure out, let it figure out what it wants to do with this information and where it wants to go next. But again, the overall picture remains downward channel. Assume that we move down until proven otherwise. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say for NVIDIA today. Not really much more to update. So let's see how it reacts ultimately. Let's see how the call goes. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.